Well folks, gather around because things got a bit spicy, hey? Just last week on May 21st, 2025, our very own President Cyril Ramaphosa was over in Washington. He was at the White House probably expecting some handshakes, some serious talks, the usual presidential stuff. But then, boom! President Donald Trump, in his classic style, decided to drop a bombshell. He straight up confronted President Ramaphosa with some so-called evidence. Evidence he claimed of genocide against white South African farmers. Ja, you heard that right. Genocide. It was a moment, I tell you, a real moment. Now these claims, according to many reports, are largely seen as unfounded. But that didn't stop the situation from becoming incredibly awkward, to say the least. Imagine flying all that way, preparing for diplomatic discussions on trade, on partnership, on global issues, and then you're hit with an accusation of that magnitude. It's like going for a friendly braai, and the host accuses you of trying to steal the secret recipe for their chakalaka. It's just not what you expect, and it definitely changes the mood, doesn't it? This wasn't just a minor disagreement, it was a fundamental challenge. The immediate impact? Well, let's just say the diplomatic air got thick enough to cut with a panga. Relations between South Africa and the United States, already a bit shaky, suddenly felt like they were on very thin ice. This wasn't just about two presidents having a bad day. This had the potential to spill over into so many other areas. Think trade agreements, foreign aid, even how the world sees South Africa. It's a big deal when the leader of one of the world's most powerful nations makes such a strong statement, whether it's based on dodgy info or not. It sends ripples across the pond, and those ripples were heading straight for our shores. And you have to consider the timing and the context back home. South Africa is still grappling with complex issues like land reform and trying to build a truly non-racial society. So when these genocide claims are amplified on a global stage, it doesn't just strain international ties. It can also stir up tensions within our own borders, making difficult conversations even harder. It's like someone throwing petrol on a smoldering fire. Suddenly everyone's on edge, and finding common ground becomes a mission. This White House meeting wasn't just a meeting, it was a moment that could redefine a lot of things for South Africa, and not necessarily for the better. Following that rather dramatic White House encounter, the diplomatic climate between the US and South Africa went from chilly to downright Arctic. It wasn't just about strong words anymore. Actions quickly followed. The Trump administration, it seems, decided to take a distinctly hostile stance towards our nation. This wasn't your average diplomatic tiff, where ambassadors write stern letters. No, this was more like a full-blown relationship breakdown. One of the first and most significant moves was the cancellation of crucial US aid. Money that South Africa had relied on for various programs suddenly started drying up. This wasn't a gentle tapering off, it felt more like the tap was aggressively shut. And then came the news about our ambassador in Washington, Ibrahim Rasool. He was basically shown the door, expelled from the US. Now expelling an ambassador is a serious diplomatic move. It's like unfriending someone on Facebook, but on a global scale with much bigger consequences. It signals a major rupture in relations. The reasons cited for this hostility were varied. They pointed to South Africa's genocide case against Israel at the International Court of Justice. Our land reform legislation was also mentioned, along with efforts towards economic ownership transformation. It felt like a laundry list of grievances from the American side. The American administration even went as far as offering to resettle white Afrikaner farmers in the US. They claimed these farmers were suffering from racial discrimination back home. President Ramaphosa, of course, rejected this claim quite firmly. He reiterated that South Africa is working towards a non-racial, democratic society for everyone. But this offer itself was a provocative statement, adding more fuel to an already burning fire. It seemed designed to undermine the South African government's narrative and to play into certain international perceptions, however skewed they might be. It was a challenging period, to say the least, for our diplomats. The overall message from Washington was clear. They were not happy with South Africa's direction on several fronts. The cancellation of aid, the ambassador's expulsion, the public statements, it all painted a picture of a relationship under severe strain. For South Africa, this meant navigating a very tricky diplomatic landscape. How do you respond when a global superpower takes such a strong stance against you? It's a question our leaders have been grappling with, trying to protect our national interests, while dealing with this new, colder reality. The warmth of previous years had definitely evaporated. The cuts to U.S. aid, particularly those managed by USAID, have had a truly devastating impact, and nowhere is this felt more acutely than in our healthcare sector. President Trump himself, during that May 21st visit with President Ramaphosa, described his own administration's cuts to USAID as devastating. It's a rare moment when a leader admits something like that, hey? But the truth is, these cuts have hit South Africa hard, especially our ongoing battle against the HIV epidemic. We have the highest number of people living with HIV in the world, around 8 million people. That's roughly 1 in every 5 adults. It's a staggering figure, a daily reality for so many. Before these cuts, the United States was a major partner in this fight. They funded a significant portion of South Africa's HIV budget, about 17% to be precise. This money wasn't just sitting in a bank account, it was actively saving lives. It funded testing, treatment, awareness campaigns, and support for those affected. It was a critical lifeline. Now, with a large chunk of that funding gone, the consequences are being felt on the ground. Reports are already indicating a decrease in HIV testing and monitoring across the country. This is incredibly worrying because early testing and consistent monitoring are key to managing the virus effectively. In 2023 alone, the U.S. spent about $500 million on aid to South Africa, with the lion's share going to healthcare. While the exact amount withdrawn now is still a bit murky, it's clear that most of this funding has been pulled. The State Department tried to justify these global cuts by saying they were focusing on eliminating wasted funds. They even brought in Elon Musk to help oversee the reduction in USAID's budget, a move that has apparently led to some federal lawsuits in the U.S. But for us here in South Africa, the focus isn't on bureaucratic shuffles in Washington, it's on the real-world impact on people's lives and their health. Think about it. Fewer tests mean more people might not know their status. Delayed treatment can lead to poorer health outcomes. Reduced monitoring means we might not catch drug resistance or other complications in time. This isn't just about statistics, it's about individuals, families, and communities. The progress South Africa has made in tackling the HIV epidemic, with international support, has been hard-won. To see that progress potentially reversed because of funding cuts is a bitter pill to swallow. It puts immense pressure on our already strained healthcare system, and more importantly, it puts lives at risk. It's a crisis within a crisis. Beyond the immediate diplomatic fallout and the health crisis, these bold moves from the Trump administration cast a long shadow over South Africa's economy. There's a palpable concern, a real worry, that the U.S. might be looking to use South Africa as an example to demonstrate American economic power, perhaps especially to other BRICS nations, showing them what can happen if you fall out of favor. This isn't just paranoia, it's a strategic concern voiced by analysts. When a global superpower starts flexing its muscles, smaller economies tend to feel the tremors, and we are certainly feeling them now. The ground beneath our economic feet feels a lot less stable these days. One of the biggest economic anvils hanging over our heads is the potential loss of tariff-free trade access under the African Growth and Opportunity Act, or AGOA as we all know it. For years, AGOA has been a cornerstone of our trade relationship with the United States. It has allowed many South African goods to enter the U.S. market without facing hefty import duties. This has been a massive boost for various sectors of our economy, from agriculture to manufacturing. It has supported jobs, brought in foreign currency, and helped businesses grow. Losing these benefits would be a significant blow, no two ways about it. The threat to AGOA isn't just about tariffs. It's about market access, it's about investor confidence, and it's about the overall economic climate. If AGOA benefits are withdrawn or significantly curtailed, South African exporters will find it much harder to compete in the U.S. market. This could lead to job losses, reduced investment, and a slowdown in key industries. Furthermore, there's increased pressure being reported on funders of non-governmental organizations, NGOs, operating in South Africa. These organizations often play a vital role in advocacy, social justice, and providing essential services, so pressure on their funding sources is another area of serious concern for our civil society. The economic repercussions could be widespread and deeply felt. We're talking about everything from the price of wine on American shelves to the livelihoods of factory workers in Port Elizabeth or farmers in the Western Cape. It's a complex web of interconnected economic interests. President Trump's administration has shown it's not afraid to use trade as a political lever, and South Africa seems to be caught in the crosshairs. The uncertainty alone is damaging, as businesses find it hard to plan for a future where established trade relationships are suddenly up in the air. The economic weather forecast for Mzansi looks decidedly unsettled. Section 5. Playing new cards, South Africa's hunt for bilateral deals. Faced with the very real possibility of AGOA benefits disappearing or being severely reduced, South Africa isn't just sitting back and hoping for the best. No, our government is scrambling, trying to find alternative routes to keep our trade flowing. One of the key strategies emerging is the preparation of a bilateral trade deal with the United States. The thinking is, if the broader AGOA framework becomes unreliable, perhaps a direct one-on-one agreement could secure some continued access for South African goods. It's a pragmatic approach, an attempt to salvage what can be salvaged from a deteriorating trade relationship. Crafting a bilateral trade deal is no small feat, mind you. It involves complex negotiations, give and take on both sides, and a whole lot of bureaucratic heavy lifting. South Africa would need to clearly define its offensive and defensive interests, figuring out which sectors need protection and where we can push for better access. The US, under the Trump administration, has its own America First agenda, so any deal would have to offer them tangible benefits too. It's a high-stakes game of economic diplomacy, and the pressure is on our negotiators to deliver something meaningful for the country. This move towards a bilateral agreement signals a shift in South Africa's trade strategy. For a long time, we've benefited from preferential, non-reciprocal arrangements like AGOA. These were designed to help developing economies grow. Now the landscape seems to be changing towards more reciprocal deals, where both parties have to make concessions. It's a tougher environment, but it's the new reality we have to navigate. The hope is that a well-negotiated bilateral deal could provide some stability and predictability for our exporters, even if it doesn't fully replicate all the advantages of AGOA. The success of this strategy, however, remains to be seen. Negotiating with the US, especially under an administration that prides itself on tough deal-making, will be challenging. There will be powerful domestic lobbies on both sides pushing for their interests, but the intent is clear. South Africa is actively seeking ways to mitigate the economic damage from the strained relationship. It's about being proactive, exploring all available options, and trying to secure the best possible outcome for our businesses and our workers in these uncertain times. The game has changed, and South Africa is trying to learn the new rules quickly. Section 6. Strengthening old friendships and forging new alliances. Beyond just trying to patch things up or find alternatives with the US, South Africa is also looking to its other international partners. This is where our history of non-alignment really comes into play. Pretoria is actively working to enhance relationships with a diverse range of countries and blocs. Key among these are China, Canada, the European Union, and the United Kingdom. It's a classic strategy. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, especially if that basket is starting to look a bit wobbly. Diversification is the name of the game, both economically and diplomatically. China, for instance, continues to be a significant economic partner. The sheer scale of Chinese investment and trade is undeniable. In the energy sector alone, China exported nearly 8 gigawatts of solar panels to South Africa in 2023 and 2024. That's a massive contribution to our efforts to tackle the energy crisis. Strengthening ties with Beijing is seen as a crucial way to counterbalance some of the pressures coming from the West. It's about maintaining a balanced foreign policy that serves South Africa's core interests, which include economic development and stability. The European Union is another vital partner. The EU-South Africa Summit held on March 13, 2025 was a testament to this enduring relationship. That summit resulted in a substantial €4.7 billion package from the EU. This funding is earmarked to support South Africa's just energy transition, as well as vital infrastructure projects and local vaccine production capabilities. This kind of multifaceted support is incredibly valuable, especially at a time when other sources of aid and investment are becoming less certain. It shows that not all doors are closing. Some are in fact opening wider. And it's not just the big players. Countries like Canada and the UK are also stepping up. For example, the Just Energy Transition Partnership, or GTP, has seen an influx of new funders, with Canada, Spain, and Switzerland joining the initiative, bringing total pledges to $12.8 billion. UK financial institutions like Garant Co. and British International Investment have committed a $100 million default guarantee to support Etana, a renewable energy provider in South Africa. These individual commitments, when added together, create a significant network of support, helping South Africa to pursue its development goals despite the headwinds from across the Atlantic. Section 7. Powering through domestic reforms in the energy sector. While navigating the choppy waters of international relations, South Africa is also looking inwards, focusing on critical domestic reforms. One of the most urgent areas has undoubtedly been the energy sector. For years, load shedding has plagued the country, crippling businesses and frustrating citizens. The government has therefore been under immense pressure to implement changes that can bring stability and reliability to our power supply. These reforms are not just about keeping the lights on, they are fundamental to economic recovery and growth. A country can't really move forward if it's constantly in the dark, can it? A major step has been the lifting of restrictions on independent power producers, or IPPs. For a long time, the state-owned utility, Eskom, held a near monopoly on power generation. Opening up the market to private players is a game-changer. It encourages investment in new generation capacity, particularly in renewables like solar and wind. This not only helps to close the energy gap, but also aligns with our commitments to a greener economy. We're seeing new projects coming online, and there's a sense of dynamism in the sector that wasn't there before. This shift is crucial for our energy security. Alongside allowing more IPPs, there are structural reforms happening within the energy sector itself. This includes the unbundling of Eskom into separate entities for generation, transmission, and distribution. The idea is to make the system more efficient, transparent, and competitive. It's a complex process, of course, with many challenges, but it's seen as a necessary step to modernize our energy landscape. These reforms are designed to attract more investment, improve operational performance, and ultimately provide a more reliable and affordable electricity supply for all South Africans. The Just Energy Transition Partnership, supported by international partners as mentioned earlier, is also a key component of this domestic strategy. This partnership provides funding and technical expertise to help South Africa move away from its heavy reliance on coal towards cleaner energy sources. This transition needs to be just, meaning it must consider the social and economic impacts on communities and workers currently dependent on the coal industry. It's a delicate balancing act, but these domestic reforms, coupled with international support, offer a pathway to a more sustainable and resilient energy future for the nation. Section 8. Global Stages and Diplomatic Posts, Navigating New Tensions. The shifting dynamics with the United States have also had repercussions on how South Africa engages on the global stage. For instance, the US recently boycotted a G20 foreign ministers meeting. This move was interpreted by some analysts as a sign of American frustration with South Africa's growing influence in international forums. It also seemed to reflect displeasure with our country's strong advocacy for the BRICS group of nations. It's like when you're trying to make new friends and one of your old powerful friends gets a bit jealous and decides not to come to the party. It creates an awkward situation for everyone involved. South Africa has always prided itself on its independent foreign policy and its role as a voice for the global South. Our participation in forums like the G20 and BRICS is central to this identity. So, when a major power like the US signals its disapproval in such a public way, it puts South Africa in a tricky position. We have to balance our commitment to these multilateral platforms with the need to maintain functional relationships with all key global players, including the United States. It's a diplomatic tightrope walk, requiring careful footing and a clear sense of our national interests. Another pressing issue arising from the strained relations is the critical decision of nominating a new ambassador to Washington. After Ambassador Ibrahim Rasool was expelled, that crucial diplomatic post remains vacant. Choosing his successor is not just a routine appointment, it's a strategic move that will send a signal to Washington and the rest of the world. The ANC, as the ruling party, has emphasized its commitment to choosing a candidate who embodies the principles of a non-racial organization. This is important, especially given the nature of some of the accusations that have been leveled from the US side. Finding the right person for this job will be crucial. They will need to be a skilled diplomat, capable of navigating the complex and sometimes hostile environment in Washington. They will need to advocate effectively for South Africa's interests, rebuild bridges where possible, and clearly articulate our country's positions on various issues. This appointment will be a key test of South Africa's diplomatic acumen in these challenging times. It's about ensuring our voice is still heard and understood in one of the world's most important capitals, even when the relationship is going through a very rough patch. Section 9. The Long Road Ahead, South Africa's Future in a Shifting World. So, what does all of this mean for South Africa's future? Well, it's clear that the country is navigating a period of significant geopolitical and economic upheaval, largely influenced by these bold moves from the Trump administration. The confrontation over genocide claims, the aid cuts impacting critical sectors like healthcare, and the looming threat to our AGOA trade benefits, these are not small bumps in the road. These are major challenges that have the potential to reshape South Africa's political and economic landscape for years to come. It's a proper wake-up call, if ever there was one. The immediate future looks set to be defined by a continued effort to diversify our partnerships and strengthen our resilience. The strategic responses like seeking a bilateral trade deal with the US, deepening ties with the EU, China, and other nations, and pushing ahead with domestic reforms, especially in energy, are all crucial pieces of this puzzle. South Africa is showing that it's not going to be a passive recipient of international pressure. Instead, it's actively trying to chart its own course, leveraging its diplomatic history and its economic potential to find new pathways forward. This proactive stance is essential. However, the path ahead will not be easy. Rebuilding trust with the United States, should that even be a primary goal under its current leadership, will be a long and arduous process. Managing the domestic economic fallout from reduced aid and potential trade disruptions will require careful planning and difficult choices. There's also a need for greater domestic coordination, perhaps using models like Business for South Africa or B4SA, to ensure that our economic diplomacy is unified and rooted in clear national objectives. We need to be singing from the same hymn sheet, as they say. Ultimately, South Africa's future will depend on its ability to adapt, innovate, and remain steadfast in its core values of democracy, human rights, and international cooperation. The current challenges, while significant, also present an opportunity for introspection and renewal. It's a chance to reevaluate our dependencies, strengthen our internal capacities, and forge a more self-reliant and resilient path in an increasingly unpredictable world. The road is long and the challenges are many, but the spirit of Mzansi is strong. We've faced tough times before and will face these too, hopefully emerging wiser and more united.